I'm Stan Shields, Festival Programming Manager here at SIFF, and I am thrilled to welcome you all to the live Q&A from Mother's Milk. I am so glad to have you join us for this conversation. I'm going to say a couple things while people are still joining, as little reminders and things that are coming up. So first off, do not forget the closing weekend is coming. It's right around the corner. That means if you have not already done it, do not forget to vote. If you just watch Mother's Milk and you're like, oh my God, that is amazing. Right now is the time. Well, not right now. Right after we get done with this Q&A. Go back in there and go ahead and just click on those stars that you can find on the film page. 1 is not so good. 5 is, oh my God, amazing. So please choose the right number and please put that in there so we have those votes come this weekend so we can go ahead and start figuring out the Golden Space Needle Audience Award, which will be done on Sunday. It's very important to the filmmakers, and we always look forward to hearing from you. Okay, so I think we're pretty close to everyone here, so I wanted to take a moment now that I think that we have the full audience to say that we'd like to start off by acknowledging that we here at SIFF occupy indigenous land and the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people. So as we go forward in the Q&A, if you have any questions for the filmmakers, please put those questions in the Q&A feature you'll see down at the bottom of your screen. You can go ahead and put those questions there. If you have stuff you just want to chat about amongst your friends, you can use the regular chat feature. That way I just know who's asking us a question and who is not just talking to each other. So I'd love to start off with this by we have so many talented individuals on this film. I think the way to start is I want to acknowledge the central creative force in a way of this film. The writer, director, and actor, Larry Powell. Larry, if you want to say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm blessed to be here in y'all's presence.
It is lovely to have you. I think what would be wonderful is if you, Larry, wouldn't mind, if you want to go around and name all the lovely people here on screen with you who have been part of this process. And if you, when you hear your name, you could wave, maybe say hi, do what you like.
Well, first of all, we have, let's see, Cameron Neal. I'm going to go in order of how they came to me on the project. So, actually, yes, Cameron Neal was the one who directed the first Surrogates episode in Mother's Milk. Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And then there was John McDonald, who just came through and just hooked us all the way up, filming multiple segments in the film. And then there was Spencer Williams. And I met Spencer and Joey Scoma, who edited the piece at the same time. So Spencer Williams, right there with the red hat on. Hi. And then Joey Scoma, director of editing of All Things Magical. And then there was Chanel. Can you say your last name? Because sometimes I feel like I'm always messing it up. And I'm not going to. Azoro.
Yeah.
Incredible Chanel Azoro, who directed the Lark episode, the episode that's subtitled in French. And then there is the wonderful Angelica Robinson, who really came in and is completely the incredible producer behind Mother's Milk, shepherding us into lands unknown. That's it.
Excellent. So all of you, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for this sprawling and densely packed film that you brought to us. Larry, since you're kind of the central figure of the origin story here, could you start us off by telling us a little bit about what your initial inspirations for the film were, the events that were happening around and in your life, and where the idea for the film itself came from?
Yeah, it was 2015. Philando Castile had happened. I was in Harlem. I was marching with some early Black Lives Matter moments and marches and demonstrations in New York City. And I wrote this play in response to how I was feeling, how I've always been dealing with gun violence and police brutality, being from South Central Los Angeles and with the LAPD. And so when this moment happened and I was in New York in the theater community, I was like, let me write this play. This play poured out of me. And then I had a few readings of it. I actually had a lot of readings of it. The play is called Titty Boy. And a wonderful mentor of mine, Arthur Kopit, who just transcended, an incredible writer and giant in the theater field, really helped me to believe in myself enough to put the play out there. But when Philando Castile happened, I was like sitting there and I was like, oh, I have a play that speaks to this moment. I want to do a reading of this play, but then I wanted my little brother to see it, who was in LA, and I wanted his friends to see it, who needed to see it. And I was like, dang, they can't get to New York and read and watch a reading. And I was sitting there in this hot apartment of my friend Nick Bonner, me and John's friend Nick Bonner's apartment, and no air conditioner was on. And I literally heard film it. And I was like, what? I don't know how to film. No, I'm not film. What does that even mean? How? Like, and I said yes. I said, okay, let me just start reaching out to filmmakers that I know and actors who have been developing the play and say, hey, this is a piece I have. You know, we're organizing it all in order for us to allow you to pick a scene from it that speaks to you the most and film it. And everyone said yes. Everyone said yes except for like one person who just couldn't do it. And it I embarked on this journey of making this what I now call film quilt, because it I was given all these pieces that I had to stitch together, with the incredible Joey and Spencer.
Were there any specific guidelines you gave anyone on your team before they began to work on the panels for the quilt?
It was very important for me to allow them to find a space of liberation. I learned it from Cameron's shoot. Cameron was one of the first people. Cameron said, "Yeah, I'll do it," and we went into Wynn Anders' apartment, who plays the mother who had been doing all these readings, and she was like, "Yeah, you can use my apartment as a location." And we went there, and Cameron, brought his stuff, and my friend Jeff White brought his sound equipment. He's an actor who was just playing around with sound, and we came together. And I learned then and there, you have to let the piece do what it wants to do, because I didn't know what I could and could not do because I had never made a film before. So I had to really just listen and let the process teach me. A lot of them I wasn't even in the city when they were filmed. It was actually like I was having this moment where we are now in 2020 back then, because I'm an actor as well, and so I was in a play at one point while the Mama Leche scene was being filmed in Harlem. I was in San Francisco, and then like it was just like it was crazy.
I'd love to hear from all of your collaborators. Like, what's if you feel like sharing? What were some of your first thoughts when Larry proposed this to you? Were you excited? Were you nervous? Did it seem like a huge task? Were you just like ready and jumping to go?
Yeah, I can chime in. I mean, I felt like I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I think Larry, I think we met at like a party through some mutual friends, like not too long before that. And you had like mentioned this idea and like sent me the script. And I think I was really it just felt, I mean, it just felt so urgent. And even like your framing of what you're trying to do, it was like this needs to happen now. And I think I was really it just felt infectious, and I was excited to like be a part of it, even though I didn't really know it just felt like this grand experiment. I didn't really know like what was going to come of it, but we like so quickly kind of got into space together and started to like play around and like see what was possible. But yeah, I think it was really just like, and I also think in this moment too, because I work a lot in the theater, so there's been this grand shift to kind of figure out how to like translate these things online so that people can experience them if we're not able to like be in the same space together. So I also think like at that time, just to be like, oh, I have this play and I'm trying to do this thing, and it was just like, what is that? How do we do that? Whereas I feel like now it feels like it feels maybe more commonplace to kind of think about how to translate things in that way.
Sure.
But for me, I remember it was very collaborative. And Larry has a spirit of like, he's always like contemplating art. And so when I don't know how close we were at the time. And he was like, I want you to direct it. And I was kind of like, do you even know if I direct or not? it gave me the confidence because I remember Larry was in our room, but he was very quiet watching. And as he was watching the scene, I heard a lot of So he agreed with a lot, but it felt like he had a great deal of trust for me, which helped me as an artist. Like, oh, okay. So yeah, I remember that vividly. The
That's why I'm on mute right now because I'm doing it right now. Mm.
While we're talking about the that scene, this is the scene, the Lark scene, right? The two-person scene, is that correct?
Yes.
So while we're on that scene, I'd love to find out, was the idea for the French subtitles, was that always in the script? Did you guys decide on that at some point in the process? How did that come about?
Joey.
we we decided after we shot the scene, and I will say the actors, if you guys could see the script, Larry wrote some beautiful words. It was like, I don't know, I don't remember how many pages of dialogue, but the actors came in ready. And so what I remember is I wanted to show the black bodies because he did come to us and at a time where, we were being attacked, and I wanted the black bodies to be a huge thing that you see, these black bodies on top of each other that aren't dead, that are creating life. But I do remember that I wasn't too, because I will say our production was a little sparse. We didn't have like sound and everything. And so I do remember just tossing and turning. My husband was thinking, and we were like, you know what? Black is not monolithic. And I remember he was like, how about you dub it with the French? And so that was like, oh, that's so brilliant. You also get to see Larry Powell's words on the screen too. Because if you guys can get a copy of Titty Boy, like it's poetic, it's beautiful. So it was like a happy, like, okay, in the spirit of like, let's get this done. It was a happy, like, French, black is not one thing. Let's put it in there. I don't know how the editing room, how you guys were come to that, but I remember tossing and turning like the sound, the sound. But the
Nope.
actors, they were beautiful. It was in their bodies. But you go ahead and share, Larry. But I remember we were like, let's do that. He called you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, Devere Rogers and Jamila Nuruddin, you have those two titans like going, they were incredible. Um, and then we were in the editing bay, and Joey was like, we gotta, this sound is a no go. It's a no go. And I'm sitting there like, really? Like, and then like learning, like, yeah, no, that's a no go. Wow. Wrestling with the sound. How are we going to fix the sound? Now, one quick little story about how I met Joey Scoma, who is a brother to me now and is a major figure in my life. Joey was one of my first friends, one of my best friends. He was her roommate. And so then they moved out and I needed a place to stay. And then so I moved into her room. And then so now Joey was my roommate. And one night we were sitting just chilling and learning each other. And all of a sudden Joey just put up some of his things that he was working on, some of his films he had made, shorts he's done and things he's worked on, up on the projector, projected on the wall in the living room. And I was like, wow, he's so good. And then I was like, I have some stuff to show, you know? And then he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I like go over here to where this part of Mother's Milk was and going onto this file. And it was the first time I was able to show the little bits and pieces I had collected over the years trying to make Mother's Milk to someone who got it. Because I had gone around and was always kind of showing bits and pieces that we were able to do. Um, and to people, and they didn't get it. And and then Joey said, "I know exactly what to do with this." And I was like, "Really?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then that's what started the process of stitching it together. So when we got to this part, um, Toby, Chanel's amazing husband, had texted me about this French dubbing a month before we got to where we were in the editing process. And when he first texted me this, I was like, huh? no. What? I was like, no. And then a month later, I was sitting in the living room with Joey, and I said, I have an idea that Toby sent me to fix this. Is that kind of how it went, Joey? I want you to be able to.
Yes, I was like, as soon as I heard the French dub, you throwing that out, I was like, 100%. Yeah, do it. It's
Like, yeah.
perfect. It's such a great example of how the whole film sort of was creatively built, and the collaboration, and sort of finding some beauty out of some fixing some sort of maybe technical thing in that case, because you have this brilliant scene, like you just said, with the actors, Devere and uh,
Jamila.
yes, and it's such an intimate scene that you don't want to be taken out just because of the just their voices peaking, or the audio being distracting. You know, that's like the complete opposite of what you want. So the French was a brilliant solution, and it added that extra element to the film, made the scene have some, like, just, it was a wonderful example of like a lot of the kinds of things that we just said, let's do it. Why not? That's perfect, you know? And um, aside from, while I was trying to add subtitles and learn French myself, to how difficult that was to actually go like, okay, what is this dub and what is the line that Larry says and all that. That aside, that headache, because I'd come to Larry going like, I don't know French, I don't know what they're saying. I was just given a pile of the stuff and had to kind of figure it out. It was a bit of a chess game, but God, it was worth it. I think that scene turned out really, really good.
And I want to just say thank you to, Invisible Studios in West Hollywood, Mark Holden, who really came through and was like, yeah, yeah, we, you know, donate space. And I get emotional sometimes thinking about the way that our community banded together to tell a story, or to pick up their art as activism and lean into a moment to tell a story. That is it's a state of the art studio, and I leaned on my friends Abraham Amka and Brenda Nascimento, and they were actually Black folks that actually come from a tradition, a culture that speaks French. So, and they're also incredible actors. So they actually went through the script and each translated it. So it's not like a Google translation of my scene. It's an actual Afro French understanding of what I wrote. And then they went into the studio, and we had a full on professional ADR session that I directed, and Spencer was there on the sidelines doing the notes that it could be consistent for Joey. Like, it was this like crazy team. And then John being there, like always, like a ninja, like coming in, like also being a part of this. Everyone was also doing this on top of everything else they were doing. So it was just yeah. Anyway, that's the French moment. It kind of was like an impossible moment that became magic.
There's something else there that I remember about that process, Larry. Um, uh, that you are. It's obvious that Larry is the magic that weaves all of this together, and I got to be at the tail end of weaving all of this together. Um, but it Larry, it wasn't just the brilliance of the scene, the brilliance of the translation. One of the reasons that I was frantically writing those notes down was the intuitive and live adjustments that were going on, um, to kind of get that net to pass on. Um, so the way that I just want to make sure that you recognize that, Larry, and that it's understood the way that a disjointed community um, can be united in deeper ways. And Larry, how you tapped into what unites the piece, and brought that together. I'd say Joey and I helped break it down into small bites, but it was your meal.
Hmm.
So I just don't want that to be. I don't want that to be forgotten.
Thank you, Spencer. Hmm.
I think that actually is a great segue into kind of a very large question, which I hope everyone is ready for. No, don't be afraid. I mean, the film is so dense with symbols, so dense with imagery and references to central concerns. And I think obviously the densest concern is in the title, which is the role of the mother and the mother's milk in Sparrow's life. And I'm curious, not so much about perhaps a summary of what mother's milk is, but kind of an idea of what the conversations you all had about communicating the central guiding thoughts you were going to try and convey, or how you were trying to get those ideas across. How were you talking to people, Larry? How were people talking maybe amongst themselves or back to you, or what questions people asked as they tried to unpack and deliver this huge project?
We come from a moment in time where the pimping of our pain and the sort of pornography that is championed around our pain is just so prevalent that I know that a lot of the filmmakers here were exhausted with that, like Chanel just spoke to. And so I think, Chanel, I think were you with child while we were directing this? I think you may have been. And that really stuck out to me in that moment. Each moment was sort of built with a team that was kind of a family. It kind of was like crazy to experience and witness that the family was the baseline of not only what I wrote in the story, it is literally about a son looking for his mother, and it's about family. And of course, the symbol of the milk is wholeness, is home, is true place, is belonging. And so it was amazing that each team really had an experience with that, from Jay Mallory McCree and Angela Lewis, shooting that scene. They're a husband and wife team. Chanel Azoro and Toby Wyndham, husband and wife team. The way I met Spencer was getting a haircut. We literally met getting a haircut by the same barber in a very like intimate way. Cameron I met, like she just said, like at a party, but that's like my theater family community. We went into Wynn's place to shoot it. That was her grandchildren were like, had just ran through the home, and like and then Nicholas Ducassi and Audrey Degurulami, they were, now they're married, but they were partner. It goes on and on. It's like kind of insane when you really take up, and it's a lot of family community. And that really is the bedrock of it. It really is about a young Black man needing the creation, just to, again, lean on what Chanel has already said. Like, we have so many images of Black bodies dropping or, dying, which, okay, sometimes it is proper. I'm not here for us not ever having those images either. But I think that there comes a point where, what else is possible? Like, what else is necessary? And what do we need to, like, be able to imagine a world at the end, like, where it's like, love, like let's see bodies creating new life, and let's see bodies, like Black bodies, creating new life. And that's why I have like one of my little cousins in it, Scotty Giselle, the baby. That's like my little cousin. That's my cousin. Like, and she's like I don't know, however old now, but it's in that. And she was just born, and my cousin Taylor was like, yeah, like, come film this, me breastfeeding. Yeah. And the only reason why I felt released to ask her is because she posted on Facebook. She had a whole photo shoot of her breastfeeding. So I was like, oh, well, so she don't care. Let me ask her. Like, you know what I mean? But I'm just going through life with my family, like, and making more families. I'm gonna shut up now.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add to that?
Dan, yeah, if I could add to that, and thank you so much for that, Larry. I came in the post-production phase of production, but to speak to the project as a whole, like just piece and IP, these filmmakers, we all came together to collaborate, to express our form of activism and protest as a creative protest. And this film was nourishment to the filmmaking community, to our filmmaking family and community. It was something that we needed to help cope and express with the times of what was going on. And it's, still extremely relevant to right now, to this week even, um, because we are still living within this moment. This moment is not something that happened 5 years ago. This moment is right now, and we do need nourishment, and we do need love, and we do need a way to express frustration and pain and hurt. And this film, it brings all of that to the forefront, and it gives you the nourishment and the nutrition that you need. And I think that's why one of the why it's so beautifully entitled Mother's Milk. That's
Thank you. Thank you. Hard to follow that. um, I think I want to actually ask a question that I think is relevant to what that need that was being filled. When it's not filled, what happens? And I think that part of the film is exploring that too. That what happens when that nourishment, that mother's milk, is absent in someone's life. I think that there are looks at that. Like there are people who have like substitutes. I think you mentioned Nick. I think Nick is the person who's cat. And Nick has he says this is mother's milk, but it's something he got at the store. Mama Leche seems like she's exactly a substitute, that in her name as well as in what she provides, that it's smaller or maybe more superficial. And I wonder, like, as you were thinking about these absences, how did you kind of start trying to think about how to place them into these characters, and how to take these larger ideas about what you saw kind of as the human problem and put them into personifications? I know that's a gigantic question to ask, but it is the question I asked myself when I watched the film.
In the film, the core of it is this ritual that our beautiful friend Jordiana does. They are literally doing a literal ritual for the healing of Black lives, and therefore all lives through Black lives, because there is no all lives without Black lives. And I think that is the most important through line, is to really understand that you are actually also you're taking part in the ritual. And so from that space, I knew that I was inspired by some readings that my mom would read me from when I was a little kid. And so, some of the characters are from those books sometimes, but then not fully, because then I would, be inspired by the dragons that I would have to slay in my own life, like as a Black queer brother, like, making his way through stop and frisks, and through seeing my dad arrested when I was little, or having my younger brother, like, excuse me, but like murdered in my back alley, you know what I mean? All this kind of things, from a gang initiation kind of a moment, or my little cousin who was like a little brother to me. And it's just like growing up with those things, I found myself always seemed like on a journey, like to find, well, then how do I belong peacefully in this space so that I can, really feel like I could breathe without being hunted. So I really wanted to explore, um, and I often feel like I'm an oversized kid in like this grown man body. So I wanted to explore this oversized kid, like looking for his mother, being hunted by officers and haunted by ghosts. And there are themes that really stuck out to me, when I would be at protests or dealing with these moments, like the interracial moment. So that's where Henny comes from. I was like, what does that conversation look like? So I created that character. Or sometimes I have a lot of friends who are adopted, and I was really interested in tackling the conversation from what it means to, what if a man, like, was in a world where he was never called nigga, or what if that word didn't really exist, or what if, like, he didn't have to deal with these things, and does that world even really exist, or can it exist, and then do you even really want to even be in that? How does that, I want to just explore the infinite complexity of that. And I know for me, growing up in predominantly white schools, sometimes I could feel like I have surrogates parents as far as education goes. So literally, I'm just like working out my shit, I think, a lot of the times to do this poetry. But then it becomes about the prayer of Jabez, enlargement of territory, which is a link to the expansion of mindset to hold a new space. Kind of going into abolitionist thinking, and kind of going into, an imagination of a new world, imagining of a new world. Yeah, I don't know if I'm answering the question, Stan, but pretty much that. I feel like I'm.
No, I think you're doing. I think you're doing well. I'm asking you a gigantic question, and you were giving me a gigantic answer. I think that's entirely fair.
No, but really, then Mama Leche, deals with, like, sex work, like survival sex work. And because I was really, I was writing this, and I was in this relationship. And then so I was like, I need for Sparrow to be in this relationship. I'm like, where is he? Has to have love in this relationship. And so literally I knew that the name was Sparrow. And I was like, I Googled, I was like, relationship with Sparrow, like love story. And then it was like, oh, the Sparrow and the Lark. I had no idea of that ancient story. And I learned about that story. I read about it, and so I adapted it for what I was going through in my queer relationship with another guy. And on my way to Brooklyn on the train, I'm like writing down these the words they're speaking to me. And I have Motherless Child. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have Motherless Child play, or someone's gonna sing it. And when I go into the apartment, his roommate is singing Motherless Child. It's like magical things like that just keep me going, and say, oh, okay, that character, use your life, but find a container to work out whatever you want to work out in.
Excellent. Thank you. So I think that I think a question I want to ask you, but I feel like you've kind of described all of these characters who are a part of you, and so I want to ask you about the character that I feel is not necessarily a part of you, which is kind of one of the or at least that's probably not accurate. A character that you take on that pulls from part of you that maybe you had to kind of think through a different way, which is the police officer you become near the end. And I wonder about in that model and what the importance was of that climactic scene happening with Sparrow as a police officer.
Arthur Kopit, again, amazing dramatist in mind. He hosted a very early reading of this piece, and was like, you know what you're doing. It was our first time. I thought that, he took me out, and we had drinks, and I was like, oh my God, he's going to talk to me about my play. He was like, you know what you're doing, but it needs a dragon. You've got a hero's journey here. I didn't know what he was talking about. He was like, I'm being honest. And he was like, it needs a dragon. So I was like, oh, a hero needs someone to slay. And I was like, well, the dragon would have to be this master officer, this figure that is always looming over the shoulders of my people and mine own. And but for me, I have this weird need to understand them as a human. and because I'm really interested, and I know, like, a friend sent me a picture of me on the front line last August in Louisville, and there's all these white cops, and there we are, holding the line. And I remember I was talking to the cop in front of me, and I was like, "You are somebody's son, like." Like Brianna's mom is back. Like where I'm always trying to reach for that human connection. And I know that some people, there's a sickness, So I know that sometimes it's futile because it's like, you're dealing with mental health. But it's for me, I'm always reaching for like the humanity. So that's my way into the master officer. It's like, how does someone who is completely sick, is there any glimmer of humanity, that any chance to maybe there's a turnaround? Because sometimes I'm just like, if I can just get this cop to break the line, if I can just get this cop to turn around, to shift your job. I understand that why you may need to want to protect, but not in this way, my brother. Like, So that is the answer to that. I don't know. Anyone else wants to respond to what I'm talking about?
I wanted, there's one thing that you said, Larry, that you said there's something wrong with me that I would want to empathize with him. And that's one of the most beautiful things about you. It's one of the reasons why this piece isn't just about your suffering. That's far from wrong. It's wonderful and powerful. And that your face, we literally see your face in this film as Sparrow and as an oppressor or someone who oppresses. And I think that's part of your power. And I, it's something that not to fawn on you, my brother, my dearest friend, that but it's something that's a power within you that makes these pieces prescient. I just, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you in doing that. There's the thing that's right in you that's doing that needs to be in more people.
Thank you. I guess for me, I just, when I'm faced with someone who literally wants me dead, literally, and literally is literally, I'm like, why do I want to humanize this person? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's since I was little though. You're right though. It's who I am, and it isn't wrong, But sometimes I wish I could.
I think to follow what Spencer's saying, though, I would actually like to kind of, on my part myself, to kind of to double down on agreement there, because I think that because if you even look at the film, this person who you've described, you also allow them to emancipate themselves.
Mm.
You know what I mean? That declaration of freedom, that declaration of autonomy comes from the person who was not giving it to others. So I mean, there is a generosity that transcends just how you're kind of feeling internally. It's also, you've also let it transform into the character itself. So I think that's a thing that's a gift that many people do not have. So I just want to, just as a person in this conversation, say that.
Yeah.
We're heading nearly out of time, and I don't want to transition so quickly after that. But excuse me. But I know from a couple of conversations and a little reading with you, Larry, that I know you always have a ton of things you are doing. I know you are in the midst of doing something right now and taking a moment to talk to us. And I know that all of these people here are talented and are phenomenal and are constantly working. And I think that by the nature of the film industry and the time we have, we only have so much time to talk to everybody. But I want to make sure in this last few minutes that we take a moment to find out what you are working on, what's next for Mother's Milk, and what's next for Larry Powell, and as well as everyone else in the group. I want to also know what's next for you, and if there's not something you have right now that you feel is ready to talk about or you want to talk about, maybe we take that moment to say what kind of stories you want to work on. What do you want to put that out into the universe and see if that brings it right back to you? I'll try that.
I would love for Joey to go first. Okay. That's what Spirit is saying.
Oh boy. I miss this. This is something that Larry and Spencer and I and we very, very long conversations before each session or after screening a scene or working on stuff. We would always sort of dig at the root of what it was that was the intent, or the root of what, just how to express all of these themes and ideas effectively. And I miss these conversations. And Larry would always, it's interesting because unless you speak it out loud, it sometimes is just sort of in the subtext of a lot of these things. And I remember a lot of the times we're sort of having to say these things out loud, just to make sure that it's being communicated with how it was originally intended. Yeah. So anyway, I missed that, and I do enjoy. And Larry and I just worked again as collaborators as I was editing on the Gaze series, which was all COVID, Zoom, and very much in line with a lot of things. And there are two projects that I'm like really thankful to have been a part of. So to continue to keep this relationship and collaboration going would be something I hope for in the future. Right now I'm still working as an editor, so I'm just sort of hoping that our planets align like they've always done. And when I have like a month to that opens up, and when things just sort of happen like that, that's what happened on the Gaze, and that was very is it fortuitous? I don't know if that's the right word, but sure, let's just say it is. And that was very that was a good way to spend all that stuff. And so yeah, just working as an editor and just hoping to keep making more things that allow you to experiment and be creative, as was a very unique project to have all this footage for, and all the other technical things that make it so unique and special. So yeah, stuff like that would be great.
The editing is a stroke of genius. I'm so thankful for you, Joey. And Joey works on very also fancy other editing jobs that he may or may not be able to talk about. Just FYI. He asked us that question. I wanted to be clear.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I don't know how much I could say, but it's but with this project, Larry just seemed, as for any editor, let me just quickly add this. Larry just kept having footage that either John shot or someone shot that would just keep coming. And I'd be like, where was all this footage? He would just pull out more beautiful things, because this film is just shot completely but in different cities by different people. And you just kept feeding this film with footage. And it was just, that was a whole other thing. That was a blessing. So thank you for providing the things to edit with, because you can't make this stuff up just in the edit. I think it was all born out of everyone that you brought in to work on it. So yeah, that was wonderful.
Chanel?
I'll have to just say exactly what Joey said. I want to continue to work in this way, collaborating with other artists. I'm primarily an actor, and I just finished something. I got to work during the pandemic, which was a huge blessing. And it's been on my heart to work with younger children. It's funny that you remembered I was pregnant. I did not remember that, but because I have a child growing up, I see that I want to work with children more, just maybe mentor small babies. I always have like a 15 or 16-year-old that I talk to, but I'm gonna work with children more.
Thank the Lord for that. Cameron Neo, I'm calling everyone out.
Wow. This has been a blessing. By the way, it's been really great to hear. I feel like I've like entered into this process very early on, and then so much happened. So it's great to even just see these folks' faces and like start to understand how this thing was put together. So this has been like great for me. Yeah, so I'm a video artist and a graphic designer and like performance maker. I do some like large scale projection like installation work. So I'm like currently developing like a couple like installations. I'm doing a piece in collaboration with um composer, singer, songwriter Paul Pinto. It's a piece called Whiteness, and we're making like a panoramic installation, a video installation. And yeah, I'm also kind of working on this ongoing series of their like audio visual patchworks, like these video art pieces in collaboration with Shayok Misha Chowdhury. It's a series called Vichitra. I can put the URL in the chat. And they're each piece is, it's like there are different installments, and each piece is an exploration of like queer South Asian imagination. So these like bizarre, it's almost like podcast meets video art, audiovisual experiments. So yeah.
I would just like to say, just to follow up on that real quick, that we are will have some information on all of you. So we're dropping some websites and things in the chat. But if there's something you simply want to put in the chat yourself, feel free to do that. Feel free. Everyone needs to get their word out there, and we want to make sure that's happening.
Thank you. Spencer, John.
I don't know. What's next? I don't know. Larry, what's next? What are we doing next? I'm not too sure. Whatever Larry says we're doing, we're doing. I'm working on getting that second Pfizer dose. Those are my immediate plans. But it is wild to see everybody, because this is like the closest I've been to other creative members of the Mother's Milk team since we were doing some shooting way back when. So it's cool to see you guys and hear you guys. What a trip it has been all these years. That's all for me.
John, I love you. John is the one, like the original, like sent me the first few cuts of Henny saying, and I was crying in a car because I had never seen anything that I had done look like that ever in my life. So thank you for giving me that first. Thank you. Spencer.
Yeah, same thing that that John said. I work in immersive theater and intimate and up close experiences, so life's been a bit different this past year. Uh, transferred a couple pieces over with good reception. One, Tales by Candlelight. I'll throw that link there. We only have 10 limited edition tickets for that. Um, uh, what's next? There are a couple of gamification online things that I'm doing, but the most important thing for me, uh, once once this veil we are all stuck behind lifts, one of the reasons that I was brought on to Mother's Milk and my participation with the gays, um, is to do what I've done with activations for Larry, to bring these pieces concretely in front of people and to give the world the chance to interact with them. Um, that has been a long, ongoing process, slow in the simmer, very far in the background of both Mother's Milk and the gays. And I'm so excited for whatever point it comes to a boil. And that's it.
And it will, yes. Last but not least, Angelica.
Hi. There's a lot going on. Larry and I have multiple projects together, and so I am so excited that both projects are at SIF right now. You can see the gays and Mother's Milk at SIF, as well as the Michelle Film Festival. That'll be happening later on this month. I run a full production company, full production studio. And so with that, along with Larry Powell's projects, I'm also producing multiple other projects with other really amazing creative people. There's an IGTV series called The Savage Chat. There is a couple of scripts that are currently in development with amazing writers, Tay Dawes, a queer Black women of queer Black women, women of color, Tay Dawes and Charmaine Johnson. They are exceptional writers, very different than Larry's style, but all still very beautiful, beautiful stuff. And I was just recently featured in the latest issue of Produced By magazine, which came out this past Sunday. The one with James Lopez on the cover. So if you see the April-May issue, please pick it up. I'm on page 16. And it speaks literally to this moment right now. One of the reasons why I created Tell Me a Story Productions, it was started really with what was happening with Alton Sterling and what was happening with Philando Castile as they were, their murders were a day apart, less than 24 hours apart. And so, I really had to create a space for people of color to say what they needed to say and tell their stories from their perspectives. And it specializes in multicultural edutainment. It's not about just Black stories, but our existence within this multicultural world. And so that is why I know that I am here to continue to tell stories, and I am blessed and grateful to work with exceptional artists like every single person who is on this Zoom, especially my brother Larry. Larry and I go back a long time, and he is one of my best friends. So I'm grateful for this moment. I'm grateful to be here, and thank you.
And I'm just happy to continue to tell stories like this. And for me, it's about bringing communities together like this, especially when we feel like no one is hiring us, especially when we feel like there's no way that we can tell the story we want to tell, especially when we feel like our voices aren't valued, seen, heard, felt, understood. I love to make spaces where people can understand that there is a home inside of you that you can create from, and that this space I create has enough space for your home to exist in community with others. And I am a 2021 IAMA Theater Company Shonda Rhimes recipient of Playwriting Commission and Unsung Voices. And the play that I'm writing for that, I'm very passionate about. And it speaks to the intergenerational relationships with Black gay men and the urgent need for them, and the ways in which the viruses and the redlining and the systems and all the poverty that is in place helps to have our numbers go up while all these other communities are going down. And so in the midst of that, there is still this urgent need for the relationships, but then there is this ever present like enemy, making it impossible sometimes for us to have the relationships. So I'm writing about that, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm really excited about a pilot of mine that I really want to make.
Are you able to tell us anything about that at this point?
Oh, the pilot, yeah, it's about it's about a millennial sex worker, survival sex worker who is done once out of their life and has an opportunity, a call to adventure to become this neo spiritual saint of a very large church, which he converts into a nightclub because his church going to be at the club.
Yeah.
So every week, every episode, you have an opportunity to like have a trap gospel number, and like he'll save the neighborhood, and is based in South Central LA because I'm very passionate about telling South Central LA stories and LA stories because we don't have enough of them.
Well, I don't have to remind you, we do have an episodic section here at SIP. So whenever you have something you're ready to share, please let us know.
I will. Thank you.
I think we are officially just about at time, and I want to thank you all so much for an amazing conversation. And we are also so enriched by being able to have this work and your work and the work you are going to continue to do in our lives. I want to thank you very much for that, and I hope to see all of you. I should also, I'd be not doing my job if I didn't mention once again that you can still vote on the website. It's closing this weekend, so make sure you vote before the end of Saturday. And also that Larry will be joining us for the Activism in Short Filmmaking panel this Friday, April 16th at 6:30. where we can talk a bit more about community building and about how people can make their own communities through filmmaking and things like that. So we can continue this conversation and expand a little bit more on those topics if you so inclined. And that said, I want to thank you all so much for joining us, and I want to hope you all have a lovely day and that every day will improve from here forward. All right. Be well. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan.
Love you.